All right, guys, so on the bench today, we have our cheap little Stratocaster body. A couple months ago, I started grain filling this because I wanted to paint it, but life got in the way and I got a little busy. But just a little rundown of before, what I used was just some regular body filler, laid out some big coatings on each side, so on the front and on the back, and I let that dry for a day or two. Used a flat block sander to just kind of go on with hand, and I used 80 grit, 180, 220, and then 320 grit to finish off. And as you can tell, a lot of the grain has been filled, and finishing off with 320 is great because it helps you feel your imperfections or anything, but so far I don't feel anything at all. But I am still going to sand it with 220 and 320 again, just to make sure I've got everything nice and level. There's some damage right here, but no problem with a little smear of that and some little elbow grease getting it flat. It looks nice and pretty now. So, and all the green is filled up. And what I'm gonna be using for the paints is just some spray cans. And these are cheap. You can find them at any hardware store. You can find them on Amazon, anywhere online. So they sell primer, Rust-Oleum primer cans, but I don't have one right now. But you could still use like a white gloss, like, you know, just a normal paint as a primer. And I've done it so many times, so trust me, you can get away with just using this for primer. But in this case, I'll use it just for my edges and then my nooks and crannies. And then here's the color that I'm gonna be sticking with. I saw this color and it stood out to me because I was like, hey, this looks like the color from like the vintage Stratocasters from like the 60s, you know? Put a couple pictures on the screen there. And then for clear coat, I always love using Spray Max. 1K or 2K is good as well, but these clear coats are long lasting. They spray well, the spray pattern's nice, and it leaves you with a nice glass finish. There will be some wet sanding that needs to be involved with every clear coat job, so just keep a heads up that it's not going to look 100% perfect unless you wet sand, get everything nice and flat. You have an option to spray over that again if it's bad, but if not, you just wet sand it and you buff and you polish, and then you have a nice clean gloss finish. So that's what I'm sticking with, are just these three: my primer, base coat or color coat, and then your clear coat. So right now I'm gonna get this 220 and 320 on here, start sanding everything nice and smooth. It's best to blow it off with like an air gun, or, you know, those little compressed air cans, just to get all the dust out of any little nook and cranny on here, because if you start pressing on with a towel, you're actually pushing in the dirt in there. So when you spray your paint on top of like dirt or dust, it won't adhere well. You're gonna have your issues. So make sure you blow it off, use some isopropyl alcohol, and make sure everything's nice and clean. And then we're gonna hang this up in the garage with a ventilation fan, put our respirator on, and then start priming, color, and then clear. We're gonna do it all in one go. So right now, enough talking. Let's start sanding, set it up, shoot some primer, color, clear, and let's see how it turns out. All right, as you can see, it's almost 60 degrees here in the garage, and we got our guitar hung up here on a little contraption. You can pretty much use anything really, and I just hooked it up to the ceiling, and it goes down to here. Nothing too fancy, as you can tell. And I cleaned it off, sanded, and I cleaned everything off. And I noticed there's a lot of like deep scratches. I think over time, when I was putting tools away, I think it kind of made some imperfections, but it's no big deal. This is for educational purposes only. So I did find some filler primer, which is good to use on your body work if you have anywhere that needs more attention. So I'm gonna use that. And right here I have a trigger, so whenever you press it, it squirts out your paint, it shoots it right out. It applies to any paint gun. So after the filler primer, I'm gonna use this Rust-Oleum primer all over the guitar. But for this, I'm just gonna spray it on my bodywork. But yeah, make sure you guys have a respirator on. I'm gonna put one on real quick, and then we're gonna start spraying here in a second. But for now, make sure that your place is well ventilated and you have a window open or a fan going, and your respirator is on. And when you spray, you wanna make sure you're not too close or you're not too far, because if you're too far, it's gonna be kind of dry. If you're too close, you're gonna start getting runs. So a good distance is like, if you do this with your fingers, it's kind of like a 7 to 8 inch distance, and kind of keep it consistent and keep your overlaps good. And just kind of be generous. Don't go too heavy. You know, if you miss a spot, doesn't matter, you'll come back. So I'll just do an example here. So I see some body work there. As you can tell, I'm pretty far. Make sure you shake your cans too. Already shook mine. Might as well hit that. And then down here, might as well do it like in long stripes. You don't want to do like patches. And make sure that your can always leaves the guitar when you release your trigger. So don't stop here. You want to stop like up here. So you want to like this. Something like that. You know, you don't want to go like stopping in here because then you'll get like some hard spots. So you can keep your trigger down. Just from experience, I kind of understand the way that this lays out. But if you're a new sprayer, take your time. There's no rush at all. And here's a little tricky. Kind of want to flick your wrist up in these areas. Sorry if I'm recording kind of wrong. It's kind of hard to do so when you're one-handed and trying to maintain a good spraying distance, you know. But so far so good. There's some body work on the side that needs, on the back that needs attention. So I'm just gonna start from here. Just gonna pretty much do the whole guitar just to get some good adhesion. And again, this step is optional, but if you want a nice little finish, this is the way to go. And that's about it. As you can tell, I'm keeping my distance. I'm not trying to get close. And if I miss a spot, it doesn't matter. It's not worth trying to hit it again because you might get runs. So right now you want to let this sit for about 10 minutes, let it flash off. In the meantime, I'm going to go shake up this other can right here and then put this trigger on here. And then same thing, but this time we're just going to cover the whole guitar. So I'm going to put you guys on a tripod and we're going to start painting. Let's see how it turns out. All right, so we waited a few minutes. We put our trigger on, so we're ready to go. And we're just gonna go in long patterns, and you're gonna see that my coverage is gonna be as consistent as possible. So we're gonna start from the left and then work our way to the right. And if needed, you could still hold it with your other hand just to make sure it doesn't move. But if you miss a spot, like I said, does not matter. You can always come back to it. All right, so after 10 minutes, shake up your can pretty well for about 3 minutes or so, and grab your other trigger from the gun, put it right in there, clips it in, make sure it's nice and level so it's straight, it doesn't shoot off like on an angle. Do a little test spray. All right, so again, I'm actually gonna start off with my edges and then work my way from, but instead of going up and down, I'm gonna do about 2 or 3 coats of this stuff. So I'll start off going vertical, and then I'll go horizontal just to make sure I get some good coverage. But you guys can spray however you want. That's just the way I do it. So let's do it. Start off with the edges up here. And again, this stuff is a little bit not so forgiving as primer. So make sure you guys are very cautious with your distance. Try not to get too close. All right, good underneath. Shake it up as you go. And I noticed there's a run there, but I mean, again, just a video example to show you guys the procedures of how to do it yourself at home. All right, just by looking at it right here, I think it looks pretty nice. What do you guys think? I love this color. I'm glad I chose it. So now, shake your can again. We're gonna go to the back, spray it again. And I'm gonna do at least 2 to 3 coats. You can use a whole can if you want. It's not really necessary. I think you can get away with about 2 coats of color. You don't really need that much. But when you get to the clear coat stage, that is when you really wanna lay it on pretty good. So, let's shake up my can. And then we're gonna start again, go up and down. want to make sure you guys are able to see this. All right, make sure you get underneath as well. All right, for me, what do you guys think? For me, that looks pretty damn good. All right, good coverage. Not bad, not bad. Let's let this tack up again for about 10 minutes, and then we'll come back, and then we'll hit up another coat. And honestly, that should be enough for our coverage. There's a little run right there, but again, for demonstration purposes and the way we're doing the video, if I wasn't making a video, I would let this dry for a day, wet sand that with like 600 and then 800, and then spray a little bit of color on there. But a pick guard is gonna go on top of that area, so I guess I can kind of cheat this and kind of let it go for now. But set a timer on your phone for 10 minutes, get your paint can, start rattling it, shaking it around for about maybe 2 or 3 minutes to make sure you get some nice even atomization from the paint can. All right, so now we're gonna start off with the clear coat. This is our final step. Shake this very well for about 5 minutes and make sure you guys have a nice clean respirator. And if you do not have one, you can make a respirator out of like a wet t-shirt and a bunch of old rags, but make sure you're in a well-ventilated area, your garage door and your windows open to create a draft. But a respirator is definitely your best bet. You can use a COVID mask and stuff it with like damp towels just to give you some protection. But again, please be cautious. This stuff, as you can tell, is very, very toxic. The chemicals in here that atomize is not good to breathe in at all. So make sure you guys please wear the proper personal safety equipment to do this stuff. Well-ventilated area. All right, so don't say I warned you, because you'll start coughing your lungs out the next morning. So shake up your can, check your triggers good. Test spray looks good. I'm gonna put on my respirator here, and then I'm gonna start spraying the exact same way, but this time I'm gonna be very cautious now. I'm gonna be very distant, make sure we don't get any runs or any imperfections here. Try our best to keep it clean. All right, so after spraying a coat on there, let it tack up for about 10 minutes again on your stopwatch. Shake this up again. We're gonna come back and we're just gonna do the whole can, because it doesn't really hurt when you wet sand. You wanna have enough clear coat to sand so you don't hit your color. So we're gonna do this whole can on here. So I should be able to do about maybe 4 to 5 coats. So let's let it tack up, dry up for 10 minutes, and then we'll come back again. All right, we're back. We're gonna do our second coat. All right, so we're back on the bench, and pretty much the whole spray can's gone. And when it's pretty much empty, do not start spraying this anymore, because it's gonna create a lot of orange peel. So when the can's kind of empty, just toss it, don't worry about it. And you kind of have to settle with what you got, because just spitting out air is gonna create a lot of imperfections in your paint. But in my case, you can see that it's very nice up here, very even. But once we come down here, you notice that the wood grain wasn't really filled. But it doesn't really matter, because it's just a video to show the process and the steps of how to do it. But up here, I added a lot more filler. And as you can tell, it's very even. I'm glad it came out like this to demonstrate what a guitar would look like if you have, you know, a nice even body, or if you have like some imperfections or some wood grain showing. So you get the best of both worlds in this video. And in my opinion, I preferred a solid color, But I feel like this would be cool over time because if you want to wear this down with lacquer thinner or something, you can kind of expose your natural wood grain. So that's something to think about as well. It'd be a cool little like vintage like relic. But up here is my favorite because it's so even and the color is solid. But I'm not against this either. It just depends what you're into, you know? It's a custom build. There's no right or wrong answer. So don't follow any rules that you have to do it solid. You can add stripes with tape. You know, it's all about creativity. But in the back, so you can tell, it's just a little bit of texture because of the, what's it called? The microfiber on the back. But I'm gonna wet sand this and we're gonna buff it out just to show like what it'll look like if you guys are interested in getting a different type of finish than the normal traditional solid color. I think this would be cool. I'm gonna experiment with that and see how it looks. But we're gonna use our flat blocks and make sure that we wet sand nice and even. You don't want to use your hands because your fingers are not an even surface. You want something flat to make sure you get all your high spots the same. But we'll talk more in a second. Let's prepare for the wet sanding. All right, so after doing the 1500, 2000, and 3000 grit wet sanding, and after buffing as well with a compound and a polish, it came out very beautifully. Use a clean microfiber to make sure you clean your area after you're done. But I'm super impressed with those results. As you can tell over here, this is the grain side I didn't really touch. So from here on back, it's just a solid color. Here's the grain. I think it looks pretty nice. I have nothing against this. But in the future, I will definitely make a video on using a spray gun to do the same steps, because this paint and clear coat is a much higher quality and it is more long lasting, and the 2K clear coat is still a very good clear coat. We used a 1K, but the 2K is actually a 2-part, which is a very, very good clear coat. So, but this is just in the future. I'll make a video using these to do a guitar body, but just by doing some spray cans off the shelf, Walmart and stuff, it's not really a bad first little spray out. Hope you guys have a good experience doing it. If you have any questions, make sure to leave them in the comments and I'll try my quickest to answer them for you as soon as possible so you guys aren't stuck on your projects, because I know how that feels like. So thank you guys for watching. This is the end result of the guitar. Obviously, I'm not going to use it. I'm just kind of using this as like a test guitar, just to, play around with. So in the future, this might be painted a different color with some spray can, or some spray guns, I should say. But for now, that pretty much wraps it up. Appreciate you guys watching the video. Leave a like, comment, and share with anybody out there who's also interested in doing a guitar project. But this was a pretty fun experience. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video.